the person or the individual is has the existence of that has to be understood only in dependence upon the physical and mental constituents of that individual or the person. This is not to say that it has to be understood purely in terms of the gross level of existence, the kind of corporeal existence that we have. Therefore, Buddhist schools on the whole understand the existence of self or a person in relation to the continuum of the consciousness.
다 다라 통마 열에 요 말이잖아.
And then the question is whether the self or a person, whether self has a beginning, an end or not.
다 지라마 슝카체네 상민이 안 된 것도 제인도잖아요. 리포 균체네 배지다 다사 균 배진 가베서지 배지 등에 요하면서 대신 디밍기 나베 좀더 패무치 아니 다사디 타마디 매바리 타마샤야 요마리 토마에 요.
The reason why the Buddhists maintain that there is no beginning to the continuum of person and self is because self is understood in relation to the continuum of consciousness. And as far as the continuum of consciousness is concerned, Buddhist schools on the whole maintain that we cannot posit a beginning to consciousness. If we were to posit a beginning to consciousness, then we will have to accept an instance of consciousness, at least an instance which we will have to maintain is uncaused. It has come from nowhere. The fundamental principle of reality that is accepted in Buddhism is the law of cause and effect, the dependent nature of reality, that everything comes into being as a result of aggregation of causes and conditions. So if consciousness comes into being, it can come into being from no cause, then it defies that fundamental Buddhist philosophical principle. Therefore, every instance of consciousness must come into being as a result of some causes and conditions. And within those causes and conditions, the material cause, if we can use the word, or the substantial cause of consciousness must be some form of experience. Matter alone cannot produce consciousness. Consciousness must come from a previous instance of consciousness. And similarly, if you look at the physical reality, at least from the Buddhist philosophical understanding, that even the physical world, so far as its causal origin is concerned, it is beginningless. We can reduce a physical object to its constitutive elements, then the atomic parts, then into molecules and so on. And even these has to come into being as a result of some other causes and conditions. So in a similar way, the consciousness is also beginningless. And similarly, the consciousness is also said to be endless, because so far as the basic existence of this faculty for knowing and this faculty for experience is concerned, there is nothing in reality that undermines its existence. A certain state of mind, such as our sensory experiences, which are contingent upon a certain physical existence, may come to an end when the physical basis ceases to exist, say at the point of death. But so far as the subtle aspects of the consciousness is concerned, particularly what the Buddhists call the luminous nature of consciousness is concerned, it is said to be continuous, and it is said to have no end. So it is on that basis Buddhist schools on the whole argue that so far as from the point of view of continuum is concerned, self has no beginning nor end.
Today you say that shebe gu that the sheba ada sheba yozalo didia because kasuri kora sugjen sore. Mr. and Rot Laboratory. Now the shebas lived in a total six sometime. Shebas lived in Jasham Shibuji, Konamra Mungu Shibuji. So that the Pejing Nag Shuni Shadia, Peji Quashabutayalisha, Sheba Chara Mungu Shaji. So that Digi Dane any Sheba Rapa, the Zutedi, any Kanda Pungul Tende with the Savishari, Kanda Dane Rapa Pungulia, George Diet with the Savishari. Pena Washington with that lady. So the name is done. Tao Pungu Sawala Dane, the Pungu Dakin Shani, 고야 수진 풍부 딱진체니 야 시바야 깨야기
So
yeah
of course, when we talk about mental phenomena or consciousness or mind, generally in our sort of unreflected state of mind, we tend to have the kind of impression that it is some kind of single monolithic entity called consciousness or mind. But that's, however, not the reality. When we sort of probe a little bit deeper, we'll see that it is a diverse world of diverse thoughts, emotions, sensory experiences, and so on. And many of these levels of thoughts and emotions are very much contingent upon our physical existence. For example, all the sensory experiences are very dependent, very contingent upon our bodily existence. And of course, these will come to an end when our physical existence comes to cease. So when we talk about the Buddhist understanding of the continuum of consciousness being, beginningless, we should not confine our understanding of the nature of mind or consciousness to that gross level of existence. But rather, what the Buddhists are talking about is a subtler level of consciousness. Now, the Buddhists would argue that there is this underlying luminous nature, which is the mere fact of experience, the mere fact of cognition. And it is this faculty, or it is this phenomenon or entity that retains its continuum and allows, when certain senses come into contact with certain physical objects, to these kind of different perceptions and so on. So now this underlying luminous nature of our consciousness is what retains the continuum and transcend kind of a temporal existence of a particular lifetime. And this is what maintains its continuum. So when Buddhists talk about the beginningless nature of consciousness or continuum of consciousness, it is from that point of view one has to understand.
다 숙쟁기 균래야 통화 영화에서 두잖아요. 야 합가능상 저르데 아니 빅방 연구야래. 디 권래야 그러셔라면은 다 빅방 영화 거래야 규진 고어로.
Of course, immediately in some people's mind the question may arise, what about the Big Bang? Isn't that the real beginning of the physical universe? For a Buddhist, of course, it cannot be accepted as the beginning of the physical world. There are still questions as to why the Big Bang occurred. What are the conditions that led to the Big Bang, and so on and so forth. So from a Buddhist philosophical point of view, even the physical world cannot be said to have a real beginning. Of course, a particular universe, a particular planet will have a beginning. But when we talk about there being no beginning, even for the physical world, we're talking at the subtle level and universe as a whole. So now, what all of this points towards is this fundamental Buddhist philosophical principle of cause and effect. And in order for cause and effect to be accepted properly and understood well, one has to be able to apply this principle in every single instance, and also at the wider macroscopic level. Now the reason why Buddhist teachings emphasize the understanding of cause and effect is not because it is a kind of a law in some sort of divine sense, but rather it is to allow us to have a deeper understanding of the nature of reality. Now, the reason why we conclude that there must be this fundamental law of cause and effect is because we know from our experience and also through our observation that things and events do not come into being randomly. They observe a certain order. There's a certain kind of correlation between certain events, causes and conditions, and also they do not come about as a result of no cause, no reason. So, and once we exclude these two possibilities of random existence or coming into being for no reason or no cause, then we are forced with the third alternative, that is to accept that there must be an underlying principle of causation that is operating at the fundamental level of reality and existence. And now, of course, one can ask questions, for a Buddhist practitioner, why is this understanding of cause and effect of reality so important? Now, the reason is because in Buddhism, there is a tremendous emphasis placed on transforming the minds and heart, bringing about inner